Elden Ring The Shadow of the Erdtree released 3 to 4 days ago, depending on where you live in the world. And everyone, regardless if you're a critic or a player, everyone's balls have been absolutely pinned to the walls, having been attributed the highest rated DLC of all time. A question you might now be rightfully wondering though is Shadow of the Erdtree really a masterpiece? Now I could tease you and leave you and ahhing, wondering whether Shadow of the Erdtree really is a masterpiece. And while doing that would give me brownie points from the insatiable parasite that is the YouTube algorithm, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be straight up with you and tell you this is the best DLC I have ever played. It is by far some of the best pieces of gaming media I have ever touched. It's up there on such a high pedestal for me that it rivals Bloodborne The Old Hunters. Now if you've watched any of my channel before, you'll know how much of a fan I am of Bloodborne and by proxy its DLC. But when I say that Bloodborne The Old Hunters and Shadow of the Erdtree are on the same level, I genuinely mean it. Which is something I didn't think I would ever be able to say. I'm not much of a political person, to be honest. In my mind, prior to Shadow of the Erdtree, there was more chance of the senile, crusty man that is Joe Biden having another term in office than Shadow of the Erdtree being on the same level or even better than Bloodborne The Old Hunters. But here we are, so who's to say Joe Biden isn't going to be the next president again? Although I've said that Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is a masterpiece, because it very much bloody is, if you've got the time, I please ask to stick around and let's discuss why Shadow of the Erdtree is actually a masterpiece, because just saying it's a masterpiece really doesn't encapsulate its greatness. Now I'm not done with Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree yet, but I've already soaked about 20-25 hours into it. And something that Miyazaki said in one of the interviews really stuck out to me. He said that Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree was the size of Limgrave. But he was bullshitting us, because Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is massive. Yes, on the map it might be as big as Limgrave, a bit bigger albeit, but it is stacked upon layers, kind of like the base game. And it isn't filler bullshit like some other AAA games would do. These are in-depth levels. Every single part of Shadow of the Erdtree's level design is curated to absolute perfection, not to mention being absolutely beautiful. Something I found really fun, I'm not going to go into details on it, but you know how in the base game of Elden Ring you've got those little tombs and caves that you can go into? Future Gecko just wanted to say the word I'm looking for is catacombs. Back to past Gecko. Thank you, Future Gecko. And while they're cool, there isn't really much to them. Well, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree flips that on its head, times it by 10, and then just grabs a needle and stabs it full of steroids and juices it up, because the dungeons, the underground side levels inside of Shadow of the Erdtree, in my opinion, are just as good as the main levels. There's one I did, and it was quite literally 3 times the size of a normal one of these cave sort of things from the base game. It was beautiful, stunning, toppled with an amazing boss at the end, which is probably one of my favourite bosses in Elden Ring, and it came from a side dungeon. If that doesn't describe to you how amazing this DLC is, there's shit ton more. Not only are the levels incredibly amazing in their design, they're also incredibly beautiful. I kid you not, I basically had a Breath of the Wild moment. That is the kind of level of entrance to the DLC. You touch the withered arm, there's no cutscene, which you might think, oh shit, that's not very good, why isn't there a cutscene? But what you are next greeted with is better than any cutscene you could ever have. As you walk through this little cavern bit, you come out, like you do in Breath of the Wild, and see this massive landscape. The skid mark tree, as I like to call it, in the distance. A big wicker giant stomps across the ground. Massive mountain ranges, beautiful grass, beautiful trees. This DLC is beyond beautiful, and it's one of the most beautiful games, beautiful DLCs I've ever seen inside of gaming. And it's hard to really call this a DLC because it genuinely feels like Elden Ring 2. A lot of DLCs, when it comes to gaming, just reuse the enemies from the base game. But like the catacombs, I've now remembered what the cave things are called. Like the catacombs, they flip it on its head, times it by 10, and jab it full of steroids, because they create new enemies for basically every single area. And they are not, I repeat, are not the same enemies from the base game with a different colour palette. They are basically completely different, and each area has this. I honestly was looking at one of these enemies. They look like just beavers. They're just like demented beavers. I'm only going to say one more enemy because genuinely I don't want to spoil too much. But there's this Omen guy that we saw on the preview. There's multiple of them throughout Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. But they basically just pop out at you as soon as you enter in through the Shadow of the Erdtree. And it just shows this amazing level of ingenuity and creativity, considering it's such a unique enemy. And I should be shocked, and I am. But at the end of the day, this is From Software, and they do this time and time again. I think it's genuinely the only studio in modern gaming that delivers time after time. Now, I've basically just spent 5 minutes talking about level design, and I think that's warranted considering Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is a lot of open world and a lot of level design. But something that is really important to From Software's games is the combat and bosses. And I can tell you today, Shadow of the Erdtree is by far one of the best DLCs for that. Now, that might be a really outlandish claim, since though Old Hunters has Ludwig, Maria, Orphan of Kos, but from what I've faced so far, the bosses seem to be on that level. I'm not going to spoil it because honestly it's an amazing boss, but there is one boss at one of the end of the Legacy dungeons, or at least semi-end, where you basically fight it, but the camera angle really needs some work. It's kind of like the Nameless King. It's really hard because of the camera angle, but that's the only bad part of it. The moveset is awesome, what you get from it's awesome, and just the boss in general is really awesome. The camera angles just need a little bit of work. But apart from that, all the bosses I've faced so far are bloody incredible. From Software once more flips gaming on its head by doing something really interesting with difficulty within Shadow of the Erdtree. You have these things called the skid mark tree blessings. Now, these skid mark tree blessings, once you have a certain amount of them, can be used to upgrade your defense and your damage. This is a unique way that Miyazaki has made Shadow of the Erdtree so that no matter what your level is, you can have a hard experience. And trust me, you will have a hard time. Doesn't matter if you're level 500, you're still going to struggle. I mean, Miyazaki has designed it as such. Of course, stats like high vigour and high dex or strength are going to help you depending on what your sort of build is, but you're still going to have a really difficult time, especially if you're in New Game Plus cycles. But I do just want to preface, like always, there are ways to make the game easier, and if you want to do that, that's completely up to you. The most important thing is you enjoy this game, doesn't matter how you do it. Because honestly, if the difficulty is something that's stopping you from playing Elden Ring, please, genuinely, go watch some videos about it, because there are so many ways to make the game easier, and I think it's a really big shame to miss out on such an amazing game and an amazing DLC because of the difficulty. What I'm trying to say is just you do you, don't worry about what anyone else is saying. The next point, I think I genuinely had 17 consecutive aneurysms when I realised how many new weapons there were within Shadow of the Erdtree. I kid you not, my brains were scattered across the wall. My brain juice matter wasn't even red anymore because it had also combusted. It was this black scarred tissue because the DLC weapons are bloody incredible. There are so many new weapon types. This is kind of the minor spoilers I was talking about, so if you don't want to see these, please click off now, or at least skip to the next point in the video. There's these little perfumer bottles you can throw around, which, by the way, I'm going to make a build out of this shit because it is so cool. You've got these light greatswords, which is like a rapier mixed with a greatsword, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And then you've also got these throwing daggers, which is also really bloody cool. We saw them in the trailer, but I kind of forgot about them. But then I played Shadow of the Erdtree, I'm like, oh my god. And then you've got new revamped movesets for things like spears, which is like a pointy stick mixed with a bow staff, which is, by the way, really fucking cool and really fucking awesome. And then you've also got these backhanded weapons, which I'm very shit with, but they are so fun to use. I normally use them when I'm exploring, because when it comes to bosses, I'm not very good with them against bosses, but they are such fun weapons. All these movesets are absolutely incredible, and From Software have outdone themselves. I won't lie, I literally recorded that last minute and a half all in one go, and I got so excited about it, I've kind of given myself a headache. so if I sound a bit off for the rest of the video, it's because my head's kind of pulsing right now. I'm not going to go into depths about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but the story inside of Shadow of the Erdtree is absolutely amazing, and it's proven a lot of my theories, so maybe that's why I like it a bit too much. But I think the story is absolutely incredible inside of Shadow of the Erdtree, and I genuinely think if you're going to play Shadow of the Erdtree, you should try and embrace the story as much as you can. In conclusion, Shadow of the Erdtree is by far the best DLC I've ever played so far, and I only think it's going to get better. I'm not even done with it yet, and it's already the best DLC I've ever played. There's so much content in it, and I'm loving every second of it. Please, if you haven't played it already, go and buy it. I'm not giving you any choice. You've got to play Shadow of the Erdtree if you have the capability to do so. It's just simply that good. It's one of those things that you just have to experience, at least in my opinion. And if you don't enjoy it, I'll give you my left kidney. Sound like a fair deal? I think that sounds like a pretty fair deal to me. Sadly everyone though, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel and lets me know that you like this style of content. Before we go, I just wanted to say thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. We literally just hit it about an hour ago, and I'm honestly beyond thankful. I've been doing YouTube for about 8 years now. Thank you so much for all the support. It warms my heart and makes me so happy. Thank you everyone, I really mean it. Anyway, I'm not going to hold you any longer. I do hope you have a great rest of your day, and yeah, may you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.